All right, let's move on to the Rheinderby, which is not a Rheinderby this week because Köln lost. We all know when Köln play Leverkusen, that's only a Rheinderby when Köln win. It's also the sort of game that when half the stadium is, it might be supporting both teams and they're supporting Leverkusen at the end of the game because Leverkusen won. The joke is that there's a lot of closet Leverkusen fans in Köln and in Düsseldorf.
Yeah, I mean, you would have been on those train trips to most of the time. If you cover a game in Leverkusen, you'll stay in a hotel in Cologne or Düsseldorf. I mean, most of the players, administrators, and stuff live in either of those two cities just because they're so big. But you will see people jump on the S-Bahn in Cologne and Düsseldorf, and then as they get closer to the stadium, they'll unzip, and then they've got the Leverkusen underneath, and you're like, okay, interesting that you didn't want to bust that out at
Köln,
the
yeah.
at the Hauptbahnhof in Cologne, but all right, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, there was a you caught the
Yeah.
game. Um,
So, before we,
yeah,
we before we go further to that, but in the 1990s when Leverkusen was like in the first phase and almost we won the title, there was on Run they always made the joke that Leverkusen was the place where people from Köln would go to watch good football. I think,
right, okay.
which is I think still true today. But yeah, I thought this was an excellent game. It was one of the most competitive Rhine derbies that I've seen in recent years. Köln obviously such a good start to the season, right? We have talked about Said Malmöller and what he's done and the fact that he's already been called up to Germany's national team and the potential that he has in great length. We had this discussion in the chat what his transfer fee is going to be, and I said like look at Nick Woltemade, that gives you a pretty good idea. He's an incredible player.
Yeah,
And he's, we forget sometimes, I think, with him because of the way he plays that he's still only 19. You can see it in this match. There's still times when he just gets outclassed a little bit, and he was frustrated when he was brought off. But Köln made a really good game out of this, and it wasn't really until the 66th minute that Leverkusen broke the deadlock and went on to win this match. And within 6 minutes, Michael Thierry and Andrich make it 2-0, and from then on it was game over, right? Leverkusen just have that little bit more of quality than to see this game through. But that Thierry goal,
mm.
I mean, that's one of the most unbelievable goals that I've seen my entire life. Like the way he backflicks it and it just loops over I had to, I think, watch it 3 times to actually understand what happened there. It might be the goal of the year.
Yeah, yeah. I had it in my match report that it's a
Yeah.
goal of the season contender, and I think that might even be it's going to
Yeah.
take a lot of beating. That was something special, and it really, when you look at it from the various angles, it doesn't even look like he can really see the ball because he's kind of facing
Yeah.
forward when he leans, and then he just connects with it. Um, and he said in the interview afterwards that he watches a lot of YouTube highlights of scorpion kicks. And so I guess so to all you budding footballers out there who spend your time watching YouTube highlight clips, maybe that's the way to the top. It certainly seemed to have worked for Terrier. It was an incredible goal, and the kind of thing that in such a dour encounter was kind of like it was so hard fought. Weird atmosphere because there was a protest from both sides from the ultras because of police checks outside. And I don't want to go into that too much, maybe, but one of these things that, like, on the one hand, this is a derby. It's hard fought. I mean, Cologne would say that probably Gladbach is their bigger rival, but um, it's still quite a big derby. But the Leverkusen, some of the ultras boycotted the game in solidarity with the Cologne fans who were being treated to really. It was
Strip
seems I think they
searches.
said
It was strips. The police conducted
unacceptable.
strip searches, and I think what happened.
Yeah,
So we don't have. I don't have 100% all the details yet, and I'm pretty sure Matt Ford, when he writes his newsletter on Wednesday, will have more details on what exactly happened. He's quite good at covering this kind of stuff. But my understanding is, from what I've pieced together from different reports that I read and people told me, is that that the police conducted strip searches outside the stadium and made Köln fans strip down, which is why then the Köln fans, 500 of them, decided not to attend the match. And then Leverkusen fans, in response, they had the hardcore ultra scene, also boycotted the match. And then the other understanding I have is that this strip search was not conducted by stadium security, but by police outside the stadium.
By the police,
So
yeah.
again, I urge everyone to read Matt's newsletter that comes out every Wednesday, because he has so many brilliant details, and has the ability to also talk to people more on the ground in the fan scenes about the stuff, sort of stuff. But that's what I have pieced together. I don't know if you have any additional stuff on that.
No, I mean, this is definitely Matt's area. He's really really well connected in this area. But I think just it is one of those elements that I really like about German football is okay, it's a bit of rivalry. I mean, we remember the scenes not long ago when Florian Wirtz tore his ACL against Cologne, and the Cologne fans, cheered as he was stretchered off. A former Cologne junior. Just kind of there's all these. There's bitterness in there, but despite that, when these
Yeah.
heavy-handed police tactics were put on the one side of the fans, it's nice to see that the kind of the derby rivalry isn't everything, and that's something that I really like about German football. Something really, obviously, the fan scene is pretty unique. So yeah, that was it. Also, but
Uh,
it contributed to a weird atmosphere in the stadium. I think for a game of that level, of that nature, it was odd because you had there were shots of the Cologne away block, which wasn't full, which is not something you would expect to see. Um, but yeah, overall, the game, Leverkusen were missing quite a few players. They
uh,
kept cutting to the bench, and there was well, not the bench, but the grandstand, and a bunch of players wearing their civilian clothes because they weren't able to play. But still, Leverkusen had enough quality to get past Cologne. That said, I think it's been said before by you guys.
yeah.
Cologne look safe this year. They look good. I don't think they'll be scrapping it out. They seem to have not just Almala, but a lot of cohesiveness, a lot of quality. I think Cologne fans shouldn't be too worried about having to
Yeah, and
fight out another
Kwasniok
relegation
is a really interesting
scrap.
coach. He's kind of like Baumgart 2.0, right? He also came through at Paderborn, and has his own little weird things that he does. Baumgart loves to wear his weird hat. Kwasniok wears a jersey on the sidelines. Those little tiny things. But is a really interesting coach, and has them working so well. Does a really good job working also with these very young players. And they play good football. I think that is the one thing too about this Köln side, is that they actually play really good football. And yeah, I'm not too worried about them. I actually thought this game too, they look good for large stretches of the match. Obviously Leverkusen eventually got the job done, but I actually thought this was a really hard fought game. And not that it could have gone maybe either way, but I wouldn't have been shocked if this ended in a draw. So yeah, good for Köln. They look good.